Starting, okay. So thanks for having us here. My name is Noll. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DropGuard, and my colleague, his name is Hernani. He's technical architect and also freelancer. And I'm really excited to present you the topic why we need to talk about auto updates. Hackers automate, but the Drupal community still downloads updates on Drupal.org. I will show you why or how. So we will focus on two topics. I will start with the status quo updating Drupal, and Hernani will go on with auto update handling and processing options. And I just forget one slide. This one, I'm sorry, to say thank you to all of the sponsors and special Platform SH and all the organizers as well. Thank you very much. So I will just start with the life of the website. So through the eyes of a developer, the project looks like specification, design and architecture, then comes the development, UAT, launch and maintenance and support. So it seems to be like the building of the website takes years and years, and the maintenance and support after that is just a little piece out of it. For the site owner's view, it's the opposite way. He needs to pay for it, so he thinks the project phase at the beginning is really short, and then he has to pay for the maintenance and the support at the end. The truth is something between these two views, I think, but still maintenance and support is a long time of period. What does that mean? You need to do updates, 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 and during the period you need to patch the website so that it's secure. That's the reason why we want to talk about that. The Auto Update Initiative examined 4 personas of developers and how they do the updates. The first one is deploy and ignore. So they do very little maintenance or updating, and they don't follow the public service announcements. So they don't even know when updates will come out. Then there's the second persona, it's called once a year. So he deploys on his websites, but he ignores updates as well completely, so it doesn't take care. Then there are 2 other personas. One is the diligent. He's taking care and following of the PSAs. That's very good and very important to know about the security advisories. And he's doing updates once a week or on a weekly basis, which is very important for highly critical updates. And at the end, there's the sophisticated one. He has several environments, is doing QA on the pre-production environment, and this one is even doing updates on a more regular basis than the diligent one. So now let's take a look how the Drupal community's update behavior looks like in 2017. The numbers are coming from the Trees node in September 2017. So the first or the most important thing to show here is that 59% of Drupal users are downloading modules on Drupal.org. So they don't automate anything, they manually download the modules. The other 2 numbers is 24% of Drupal 8 users updating using Drush, okay, a little bit better, and 22% are using Composer. That's already a little bit sophisticated or more sophisticated. But what these numbers show is the personas before that not all of the people are sophisticated as they should be, and 59% of the people are definitely not sophisticated. So a security perspective on updates. I've attended the Hack Camp in Bucharest in June this year, and it was a very nice event with a security focus. And there was a keynote of XJM, you may know her, her name is Jess from the security team, and she held the keynote about responsible disclosure, cross-project collaboration, and Drupal 8 security. She gives this talk again today at 4 p.m. to advertise it. It's a really good talk if you're interested in security of your websites. And what she was mentioned is one very important thing. For the Drupal Get-On 3, the 4th Security Advisory 2018, that the first attempt started already after 4 hours. So automatic attempts after 4 hours already. And later on Drupal Get On 2, there was news that 115,000 websites out of 500 haven't been patched after 2 months. There were some discussions with the security team about the exact number of 115 sites, but still if it's 80 or 90,000 sites, it's quite too much unpatched sites online. So I have 2 recommendations for it. Please, if you want to 100% make sure that your site is secure, update the same evening when the security advisory is coming out. And yeah, the second one is for the other updates, do it on a regular basis and schedule your updates for your websites. And how you can do that, Hernani will explain which possibilities you have.
Turned on. It's okay. So when we look to where we are and where we want to be, the reality is not all of us could be sophisticated, that's for sure. But everyone should be diligent and everyone should have as less work as possible to perform the updates. And overall, they're not a very interesting process. That's why typically they don't get a lot of attention. But ideally, we should run on a system that to update doesn't require us to go to many steps and lots of testing. So we need to look first to what's typically involved in an update, especially in the modern world that we live, where we do have Composer controlling the majority of the code that we have running. So first we build, which typically means we do a Composer install or a Composer update. We review what were the changes that have been produced by that Composer update. So basically we look to what changed, what files they change. We want to guarantee that we are not pushing to production code that we don't know about. We deploy it to a non-productive environment, QA, staging, whatever. We test it. Ideally, you automatically test it. Reality is most of the times you end up manually testing as well. And finally, if you are happy with the whole process, you deploy to production. If you are working in a website that has several stakeholders, there's another very important part, which is you communicate through the whole process. So this is one of the reasons why it's not that easy to do an update. There's a lot of things to do, and there might be different stakeholders involved. So overall, it's not a very fun process to go through. However, this process gets a bit easier when you do have certain aspects. So basically when you have automation. So when you have multiple environments available and they are up to date, so they have data that replicate production. So you can do your update on QA and you are happy with it, and then you move to production because you have production data, so the results are going to be the same. So if you have automated tests, you can, and they have good coverage, then you can run them and sleep better that your update is not going to break anything in production. When you have security and non-security update notifications, so then they are detected as soon as possible and you can act on them quickly. When you have a way to quickly review what changed, so if you don't want to apply directly in production, you want to see first what were the results of your updates, you can do it. And of course, if you have a CI pipeline that can control all of these. If you have all these, then your life becomes much easier. However, the question here is how much of these we can automate. And ideally, pretty much everything should be. So what are the options if you want to do something like an update process similar to the one that I described? So first option is update Drupal directly. So we use some process to update Drupal directly in the production environment that we have or in the environment that we have. Second option is we try to automate the Composer workflow. So somehow we are able to tweak what is the Composer results from the build, and we are able to move that to production. The third option is we can use a software as a service option like Dropguard, for instance. That's their business to help you on that kind of update. So I'll quickly mention the first one, so the option to update Drupal directly. And this is one of the goals for the automatic update initiative. Just a disclaimer, neither me or Joe are involved in the initiative, so we don't know much about it apart from the documentation that is public. But In a nutshell, the goal is to make sure that we have in-core support to facilitate the updates. Ideally, go to automatic updates. You can read about the details on the initiative on that link. It was announced about a year ago in Vienna by Dries. Recently, a proposed roadmap became available. And if you want also to know more about the initiative, there's going to be 2 BOFs in Drupal Europe, one today, another one tomorrow. What I can tell you about the roadmap is that first, the idea is to address low-end websites, so things that do not have a very complex composer workflow, for instance. Later, to have composer support. And the idea is conceptually similar to what other products do. So then they download the code from code repository, so it could be Drupal.org, and they're able to update them themselves, kind of the same way that other competitors do, like WordPress, but in a way more robust and in a way that is way more secure. So that's the idea for the automatic updates. I wanted to talk you more about my personal experience, which is more on the second option that I've shown you, which is to automate the composer workflow. And I'm going to tell you about my personal experience for this year. I've been responsible for maintaining 4 Drupal 8 websites as a hobby. All of them are hobbies, not my real job. And 2 of them are in Acque Cloud. One of them you might have visited during this year, which was the Lisbon 2018 drupaldays.org, the website for the Drupal Dev Days. 2 other in the self-hosting, so using Bitbucket pipelines, and deployer. The update strategy that I'm going to explain is very similar between them. It doesn't matter really the tooling that you have and that you are using behind. And this workflow and this update strategy typically takes me a few minutes to have the site from since I started the process till I get updated in production. So looking to what's the strategy, on the yellow racetracks you have everything that is manual. On the green parts you have everything that is automatic. So the whole website code is controlled from a Git repository, and there's a dev branch that only has the composer JSON, the custom code, and the CI pipeline, basically all the instructions that it needs to build. And whenever I know that there is an update, I do a push to that branch. The CI pipeline recognizes that push, is able to do the build, basically like a composer installation. Does that against a build branch, so a new branch that contains that build. That branch is automatically deployed to a non-productive environment, so it stays staging. I'm able to review there, and if I'm happy with it, I consider that the final build artifact, which means that it's merged into master, or a tag is created and is deployed in production. Okay? So from all these, the beginning is not really automated. The fact that I am pushing first to QA or staging and then to production, it's mostly a personal option. It's just a configuration on the pipeline. There's nothing that would avoid that the deployment would be done first to staging, some automatic tests run, and then when those are green, they got automatically pushed to production. I just prefer to review first what is there. And as I said, the code repository that we're using, it doesn't really matter as long as it's connected to a CI pipeline. The CI pipeline, it really doesn't matter as long as it's able to run a few commands to do the composer installation and to make sure that you can afterward affect the dev build branch. And then you need something that deploys using the same CI pipeline to the staging environment and the production environment. So the first time I gave this presentation, I mentioned in Lisbon in July, I mentioned the fact that the only thing that could not be automated here or was not automated here was the beginning. So I still need to know that there was an update coming, or I received an email saying there's an update to go for your site. So which is not great because it still makes me need to be alerted. So to avoid that, I've been working since then on the last bit of the automation for this strategy, which was a contrib model that I've created and can be seen right now as a proof of concept. It's in Drupal.org. what the model really does is tries to automate the first part. So it uses the updater core model to be able to know that, hey, it's my time to do an update, and from that moment on is able to detect and fire up an update. So quickly what the model does, it detects that there are available updates using the core updater model. So instead of just receiving an email saying, hey, your site has something that you need to update, it just recognizes that information and is able to create a job. And then on that job, you associate different processor plugins that are able to act on the fact that you need to update. The processor plugins, they right now what they do is they integrate with popular Git repositories that provide an API, and are able to push metadata to that repository. So from the moment I push metadata to the repository, then there is a new run that starts, and my site, the whole update process gets started. So right now, as I said, it's just a proof of concept. It supports Bitbucket, GitHub. More to come. If you want to act in a different way and have a different processor plugin that does something different than pushing code, you are totally free to do that. And yeah, and from the moment I do a push, then the whole build gets started. So the whole process I've shown you before, the whole thing can be executed without any manual intervention. Okay? And as I said, plugins can be written in very different ways for this update strategy. And with that, we finish our presentation, and I think we still have some time for Q&A.
Hi. So I was wondering how you deal with I was wondering how you deal with compatibility problems between modules and the core of Drupal, because this seems to be a big problem with other CMSs, as I've seen.
So the way that what is built is really controlled by the composer.json. So you can define there the constraints that you want, and making sure that models do not get updated toward a certain version that is not compatible with what you are updating with. But apart from that, if you really need to change what is in your composer.json in order to make the models compatible with core or models compatible with models, then there's no option to do that apart from updating your own composer.json.
Are there any other questions? No? Don't be afraid. Okay. Thank you very much for listening, and have fun today.